Here we come. Hello, this is Randy Roebuck. We're coming here from the City of Austin facility. Welcome to everybody to the Plugfest. Aaron, once you come in here, we have Aaron here working hard getting test stations set up. We're setting up here this morning and should be starting some testing this afternoon here, and we'll be going all week. So thank you for all of Aaron's support. We also have Tony Vento, who represents S.E.A here, setting up some equipment, and have a few others coming in. So welcome. I'm Randy Roebuck, and I'm going to take my face mask off. We are following the policy here. And now I can breathe a little better. I lead the technologies and certifications at OmniAir. My contact information is at the start here. I'm changing screen here. Oh, why is the need for this Plugfest? It's a driver to push industry standards, conformance, and device readiness. We spent the last 3 to 4 months with all our members defining and confirming the, actually defining the test cases from the standards and requirements. And at this time, we need to confirm these test cases in order to take it to the certification scope. We're also evaluating the test equipment members' implementations and evaluate them so we can, from the industry and for the certification process, so we can lead towards an audit and qualification of the test equipment. We also very appreciative of all the device manufacturers' participation here. We need a variety of devices to go across these test cases and test equipment to make it sure everything is sound, everything is appropriate. And so that's the reason why we need a good sort of devices at this stage to be able to move into a certification stage. We also invite the test laboratory engagement and preparation in expanding the V2X technology. We've spent the last 2 to 3 years certifying DSRC devices. A lot of it is transferable into the C to V2X, where 80 to 90% of the test cases are really basically the same, but we want to make sure it works. So I am going to, on some of the devices here that are dual mode, boot up, run that device in DSRC mode, then run it into C to V2X mode and make sure everything is transferable and we get the same results. We might need to make a couple adjustments, but that's par for the course. And everything is leading towards enabling certification scope release based on industry adoption. Fall 2000 Plugfest, 3 weeks, 3 regions, 6 locations. We have a lot of devices and test equipment at the test locations, and we'll have those folks do a virtual participation through Microsoft Teams. Currently, our first test laboratory, DEKRA, has a full slate of test equipment and testing starting here early this morning. You should have received Microsoft Teams invites from Rosario, and has a full week of participation there. Here in Austin, I am finalizing the schedule and getting all the test stations. So those Microsoft Teams invites should go out later this afternoon, first thing tomorrow morning for this week's testing here in Austin. And I'm also meeting with the other laboratories, and they'll be sending their stuff out this week also. Bench and field testing for Plugfest discovery and testing readiness. This is a time to, make sure we have capability, changeability, cooperation, collaboration. We're still trying to take these same attributes that's been in the in-person Plugfest and keep the very important aspect and benefits of this industry type program moving forward in this virtual world where traveling is not allowed. Ultimately, we want conformance, compliance, and certification, and it's all leaded towards trusted over-the-air communications and interoperability in the transportation sector. OmniAir, our device level testing methodology, is a black box over-the-air testing verification representing the V2X Martin. Why? What is OmniAir certified device? It's basically a device tested at an authorized labs with qualified equipment to an approved release of test cases and process defined by applicable standards. The certification devices does not mean or misconstrued as reference devices, where reference device is a separate classification, which we have a program in place for that. Certification conformance is an evolving process requiring industry participants and agreement in test cases needed for operational deployment and interoperability. Test cases are defined as key element verification, but may not cover every element in a standard specification. If you guys find something we're not covering that should be added, we need your ongoing participation so we keep the program relevant and make sure it meets the needs of the industry. And surveillance is a key aspect in maintaining technical integrity and environment done periodically, requests on a Plugfest basis. So it's just as important for devices participate in Plugfest and getting their device ready for certification. It's also just as important to keep participating, bringing devices back and make sure your devices still comply. And also if there's additional criteria that it can be tested for that. Why certification? It's an independent accredited laboratory testing and test report, shows conformance and verifications per the test cases. It provides consistency for device applications and assures interoperability among devices. We also access the security credentials to known devices, and it minimizes product verification and change requests in controlled releases. We do have a qualified device list that can be seen on our website where agencies can use for procurement, and we do have the environmental control and inspection in place in surveillance. Plugfest, leading towards certification scope requests. It's a discovery process of using all this next 3 weeks as a discovery and basically determine all the components readiness. We go from test cases to scope release. We go from test equipment to audit and qualification. We go from test laboratories, from audit to authorization. We go from bench and field testing to validation. And finally, devices ready and apply for certification. One of the items we did for DSRC, we have a posting up on our website. What does the DSRC V2X release 1 mean? You can go to our website and you can see what it covers. Also, the IOOs have asked for the same thing for the upcoming one and see the V2X PC5. So in their agency procurements and contract calls out, they have something to call out. You can see I've marked this in draft. I've put the so-called proposed language up there. We need to massage it and see how we come from this Plugfest, see what we need to add, modify, change, and our plans later this year to release the initial scope and basically what it covers based on market and industry readiness. Our certification programs and elements and process flow. A lot of you folks have seen this slide before. On the left-hand side, I've updated the test cases, the number of ATLs out there, the number of certified devices. Those are all DSRC. We go from device manufacturer to application to test plan generation to authorized test laboratory selection, to conformance testing, to interoperability testing and field verification, to test report review. Then we have an optional step of verifying the production certification certificates on the device, and also our trademark rules and certification marks and listing. It is a very complicated, very defined process. We do have a flow on the right-hand side showing what it takes to add stuff to our certification process. So there are many standards coming out in VitaX. Some are very appropriate for certification, some probably aren't appropriate, and some meet in the middle. So we definitely need sponsor a scope, need to review the requirements and standards as needed. We need to produce test cases and procedures. Then they have to be implemented on test equipment. Then we go through Plugfest trials. Then we create the forms. We test the devices. Then we audit and qualify the test equipment. Then the test equipment is procured in the hands of the test laboratory, where we audit and authorize that to make sure they know how to use it and how to produce the testing results and the reports, and we go to certification release. So these are the components of our certification program elements and process flow. This is the VitaX certification test case list that's been offered to every device participant and test equipment, where they get, this is the opening sheet of 4 sheets for the test there. Kind of shows our test case number, the description, and the green 3 columns in the middle there are for DSRC, whether you're a OBU or an RSU or a single or multi-channel radio. Then we also have in gold or yellowish color the C to VitaX and what's applicable in its test plan. Then in the blue, we have open columns for the test devices can write in their comments or the test equipment or test stations and move forward. This particular form can be found on our OmniAir VitaX SharePoint repository site. In this slide here, on the left-hand side shows all our procedures that are either in place or being worked on or will be future specifications. And in our SharePoint on the right-hand side actually shows the website image of the test plans that have been finalized for this Plugfest, where we need to take these, get the results from the devices and the test equipment, see which one of these test cases are looking good, that actually can be finalized for the certification scope, or we need to make some adjustments here. There are 2 Excel files here. The one on the top is the test plan for this virtual Plugfest that's up there. It is in landscape mode. It does have 2 columns that's unlocked where you can fill in comments. And most people who participate in Plugfest know how we work. We actually don't keep any scores on any one particular device. We actually just look at test cases, whether it's been done or not, whether someone has passed it, and we look at it from a very top level anonymized view to see if we're ready. In order for a test case to be approved in the certification process, I need 2 or 3 devices actually pass it, and prefer to come off of 2 different sets of test equipment. So it's a very robust progress, and it's not individual specific. The PDFs there are the test cases and plans, and you do have the very last item is the test specification comment sheet. So if you find something that needs to be changed or that stuff, we definitely want your feedbacks here this month during this process so we can update those. We have had 2 folks give us some comments on our RSU test procedure that we created here in the last 2 or 3 weeks at the basically when the specs first came available. Aaron and I did review them this week, and we do agree with your comments where that one needs some changes, and Aaron's in process of updating the RSU specification listing there, which is document 770. So my assumption he'll probably have that out in the next couple days. Next slide. Basically our Plugfest test cases, typically our bench testing is where the device is wired to the test equipment where it's appropriate. This shows all the different elements that's being offered. It shows the description, the number of test cases, and whether the device is cabled to test equipment or done wirelessly, and a few notes here. Down below, we do have the field testing where we're doing it here in Austin here this first week. And then we have the interoperability test. Here on security certificates, every device manufacturer and test equipment had the opportunity to put on the choice of certificates wanted. We have 4 different suppliers: AutoCrypt, BlackBerry, eScript, in Green Hills. We also had a 5th SCMS provider out of Europe, MicroSec, who's joined Omni here in the last couple of weeks, and we looking forward to them to joining to the Plugfest in the spring coming up or next year. As part of this, we're trying to expand it as much. I did get the certificates and the routes here late last week. I did put together a testing route file for the test equipment to be used on the sniffers and test equipment. I got 3 out of the 4 loaded into the mix, and Aaron is working on the 4th one where we need to extract it and load it, and I'll hopefully be sending that out later today for its use. On the right-hand side, this is new for this Plugfest. Every time we went into a Plugfest, we had to go get special IPv6 routing at each Plugfest, and that actually cost us about $10,000 per Plugfest to offer that service. Special thanks to WSP, who we've been working on, where we found out we can take a off-the-shelf router that we actually procured on Amazon. We actually turned it into a router with a public static IPv4 address and with IPv6 tunneling, so we can actually go into that site, plug the router in, offer these capabilities, and not have to pay that expense. You can sign up complimentary through Hurricane Electric service, and it seems like it's doing a pretty good job here in Austin. Test station, test laboratory. Each test station will provide and operate test stations through teams, allowing hardware control if required through PuTTY, WinSCP, and Notebook++ tools and others. Each test station has a Windows 10 computer with a 5-point Ethernet switch or larger and power strip in connecting the test equipment. the GNS source, the device proxy, and all that. If you're in a non-shielded, non-isolated room, we expect it to be wired unless you're in outside testing. All the devices should have came with one particular cert loaded, so we can run through it. And each one of the test operators or test stations should be sending their test results to Aaron on Wednesdays and Fridays of their test week. And he's already sent so-called the Excel spreadsheet to add the results of each one of the test laboratories participating in this global Plugfest scenario. This is a list of the test equipment, the test case elements. This is as I know it as of this particular time. So it has the axis where things are participating in its coverage. We got a great wealth of coverage in moving forward and capabilities through the test equipment. Test equipment utilization at each test laboratory. You can show the testing house and the location. You can see the participating weeks. This week, we're doing testing here in the city of Austin and DEKRA in Spain. We have a great wealth of field testing here in Austin, and we got DEKRA that actually has a very extensive collection of test equipment coming this week, and also offering some field testing themselves. We do have testing at Veritas and TTA in Korea next week, where they're doing some DSRC testing and also doing some C2V2X testing also. Then the third week, which is the middle of October, we have SGS and Veritas in Detroit. Here in Austin, we have Aaron and Randy here at Veritas. In 3 weeks, Aaron will be going up from Kentucky to Detroit and help supporting them on stations. Then I need to make a decision whether I attend Detroit or San Diego based on the needs in order to ensure the certification scope launches later this year. The standards is applied to Plugfest and certification testing. There's probably never been a point where there's more standards going on in VitaX than we've ever seen. There's probably more going on in the last 6 months in standards and probably what I've been involved in the last 5 to 10 years in this front. Instead of maybe 1 or 2 standards going on at the same time, there's about 10 of them going on, and you could almost have a good 1 to 2 full-time people just covering these standards, making sure they meet all the needs. So VDEC can actually be deployed out there. So at the top here, the 802.11p that's been released, and we have it in full-fledged here. It's maturing. There's also a activity in 802.11 called BD, which is the next generation Wi-Fi, which is very similar to the capabilities being offered in the C2V2X LTE release 14. That should be coming available in the next 1 or 2 years. 3GPP, release 14, it's been set. We're doing a lot of testing with that, and here in the next few months, that'll be in the certification scope, and actually in the next, hopefully in the next quarter or so, we'll have devices entering the certification process, and hopefully early next year, we'll be making announcements on certified devices in this space. Security services, there's 802.2, 2A, 2B, and those are all released in place. 1609.3, they're 2016 in DSRC, has been used for quite a while. It's been going through some modifications to add C to V to X to it. It's in a 10-day ballot here, and I believe it ends next week in adding the C to V to X component to that. If that passes this there, that means that it becomes released in sometime in the first quarter of next year as a published document, public release document. 1609.4 is DSRC Pacific and doesn't apply to C to V to X. J27 and J2735, we're looking to have that in the 2020 version as part of the certification process. There was a couple key elements that was changed from 2016, and the industry participants will be busy updating to this version here in the fourth quarter. J3161/1 is in a 14-day ballot. It ends next week. In its last 20-day ballot, they had the more than the passing requirement, which the minimum is like 75%. They're working some final details of that. So hopefully it will pass the committee and go to an executive approval. And we're hoping that that'll actually be released here in 2020 late, if not very early in the first quarter of next year. 3161/1A is draft is being reviewed right now. It basically mimics the 2945/1A, which is the vehicle level testing test procedure. The J2145/1A actually was released in July of this year. And this is what the Southwest Research BSM minimum performance and location accuracy tool is based off. And congratulations to Southwest Research. It basically received a qualified test tool status here this past week, where it is now moving as a hardline requirement in any OBU moving forward. So we're looking forward to getting the 3161, basically its complement in V to X procedure through the ballot process and basically make the same requirement in our initial scope. Next is the RSU 4.1, basically the original RSU specification that was released in 2017, which we're still using for DSRC. So we've kind of using a adapted version of that and moving forward into C to V to X, which NEMA TS10 actually adapts to it. So the TS10 is in its final draft review. We expect it in the next month or two to be released to the industry. So it does call out C to V to X, which uses the RSU 4.1 attributes and test requirements with some minor adjustments. We have selectively went through that for both DSRC and C2VX to apply what our initial release latest this year will be moving forward. There's also a few other standards you need to be aware of NEMA TS2, which has a lot of the environmental and the hardware requirements. They also have a TS8, which is cyber and physical security for ITS type stuff. We also are actively working in Insights 1202 version 2, which the traffic controllers need to be updated and move forward to. That was released in 2019, and that will be definitely work that will be done early next year and be applied to the process. Also, there's 1211 you need to be aware of for object definitions, and 1218 version 1 has been in its final release mode. We've been told any day that that should be released. It is the foundation. It'll be part of the what I call RSU 5.0, which is being worked collectively from the ITE, NEMA, and AASHTO working groups as a joint US DOT project, which I'll be shortly adding that document to that. That RSU draft was just released here in the last week, where they're asking for comments, and in the fourth quarter here, they hope to get into a more of a final stage and start going through a balloting release project early next year. These are the elements that we're actually testing in the DSRC V2X, the 10 megahertz channel at 172 that most of these are working from. I am also applying channel 180 if that's what the new FCC direction would be. So any device currently going through certification, I ask for test results also from channel 180 to make sure that we have a test report reflecting that and moving out forward. The C2V2X, very similar test cases. One applies to that. We're testing the 20 megahertz band as channel 183 based on these standards. Our testing locations, equipment and tools and Plugfest. You can see DEKRA has a variety of test equipment there in Austin. So each one of the test sites offer a little bit of difference and more breadth of testing across the board. Hopefully the device manufacturers have chose to send devices to each. You can see this is my DSRC test case used in certification testing, which I have a OBU BSM broadcasting. You can see the box all collective. You can see the attributes of this and the components. We also did a video capture, which you can hear.
A variety of messages coming across the computer screen here. We have the basic safety message, which is sent at 10 hertz. We're seeing the traffic signal messages from actually 2 or 3 intersections, and we're actually seeing the traveler information message along with the WSAs, or the wave service advertisement.
So that's a brief, so basically it shows spats and maps in there in downtown Austin. Up in the upper left-hand corner is a PCAP recorder comes from the Southwest tool. In the upper right-hand corner shows packets coming in on a different radio on the 4-channel Sniffer. And in the lower corner shows actually the packets coming in, driving down the car. And the different color, the blue is BSM messages, the orange is SPAT messages, the black is WSA messages, and there's a green TIM message in the process. So I'll move on to.
Currently see a variety of messages coming in
So
across the computers.
Let me go to the next slide. We also have a C2X portable sniffer that we've just put together on the tools. It shows an intrinsic Roadrunner device, which is a white device. That's a C2X processor with a DSRC padding UDP forwarding. I got a 100-watt battery, which is actually carryable on an airplane. We got an 8-port data switch. We got a magnet mount antennas. You can see up in the upper hand corner, a little shark fin. Then we got one with a longer cable that goes on the roof mount, which is a mobile mark device. We have a Consignia tablet that shows both BSMs and receiving messages coming in here. Its device is down here, OBU. Thank you for the two device manufacturers that's helping out in certification and providing devices help the certification process. We also have a Savari device here in part of the kit working, and be happy to add other device manufacturers once I get one of their devices in hand in order to evolve the certification process. We also have a VDEX hub that's buried down here, and it's a nano Pi that I'm using for that. And then we use a laptop and a Wireshark. This test tool will both be at the city of Austin with OmniAir, and potentially probably up at Detroit. The VDEX hub message generator, you can see here, special thanks to USDOT and Saxon Labs, Leidos, in providing this open source platform. They, in conjunction with OmniAir and Leidos, the 3 sets of test cases, SPAT 1202 testing, SPAT 2735, and MAP 2735. And there's about 20 to 30 test cases each in that you go through. We are planning to do this in Austin here all day Thursday with help on all the RSUs that are here, and then also in Detroit on the 15th. We've had quite a few requests come in how to go build this. Aaron's built a couple of these here, and we talked to Saxon Labs and said, well, hey, maybe a separate means plan for building a VDEX hub would be appropriate, since we've had a couple labs and a couple test equipment that want to do that and do it in all one thing. So go purchase your hardware so it's ready to build when we hold this meeting. Also, I was given the opportunity by the USDOT and ITS World Congress to do a panel session, which we actually did the taping of last week, and actually it and its questions answers, I believe, is going to be done on next Tuesday, October the 7th. So if you want to tune in for that, it's led by Deb Curtis of USDOT. She had a director from Colorado, also had Larry Head, professor at University of Arizona, and myself talking about open source and also this particular component of it. We're now into the test equipment stage here. We have a Danlaw test system that's both being operated at DEKRA Spain and Bureau Veritas Detroit. This does the 5-layer and also does a 1609. This shows the capabilities there if you provided a DSRC device. We also at SGS San Diego, we have the Ritsu test equipment where it does the C to V to X testing here. And hopefully you get an opportunity to test off of this platform in moving forward. Keysight, Our equipment is going to be at most of the labs here. It basically has a wealth of information going from the 802.11, the 3GPP, also the J3161 as far as radio characteristics, to the 1609 and the J29 test cases as far as the upper layers. And also it has an application capability, and moving forward in our application committee, where you can do a lot of this testing from the bench and show the simulation in GPS. Their test equipment will be at DEKRA Spain, will be at TTA Korea, will be at SGS San Diego, and at Veritas Detroit. We also have a WaveBeef Touch tablet, which they came to a previous Plugfest and actually showed a DSRC version. This version here, they have it at DEKRA Spain. Currently, it's stuck in customs here in the city of Austin, so I hope to get it today or tomorrow, be able to test it out here. We were given training and shown its capabilities. Aaron and I are excited and looking forward to getting this particular item and take it through the paces here, both on the bench and in the field. We also have Rohde & Schwarz vector test system that's participating in Plugfest. It does the 3GPP and the J3161. Also has, they also work in a partnership with Vector, and Vector does the 1609 and the 2945 test cases using their Canoe software. Also has an application capability to it, and we're all looking forward to it. And it's going to be done. And they're actually arriving here in the next hour. We'll be setting up their equipment and start the testing, and it's being used in DEKRA Spain. We have S.E.A. who participated in our last Plugfest in Spain. They have a great wealth of test equipment here. You can see at the top there, their bench unit testing both DSRC and C2V2X, the radio characteristics. Also has an application interoperability component to it. In the middle here, which we have another slide coming, shows their first version of a Sniffer device here. This is semi-portable, where you can use it both on the bench or in the car. And Aaron and I got to actually work with it on Friday and Saturday of this week, and you'll see some results here. This one shows a little more in depth of their test tools for the logging application layer, signal, protocol, and RF layer. This product actually shows some of the headers of the C2V2X, such as the PPP header portion, and that's something you don't normally see in a Sniffer type device, but typically you can only get in from the higher level analyst tools. Here's their C2VX and DSRC Sniffer. Aaron and I have been able to try out the C2VX portion. We'll be actually trying out the DSRC 802.11 portion here this week. I will kind of show you it in demonstration. We created this video here on Saturday. In the upper left-hand corner shows a ADB snippet of a Savari C2VX OBU broadcasting, showing it's receiving and transmitting messages. In the upper right-hand corner is the S.E.A. consigning size, showing them where they're showing transmitting and receiving. And at the bottom, we actually show a Wireshark decoding of certain elements. And we were doing this stationary, and we'll be doing a video of this in the field here probably on Wednesday.
Hello, this is Randy Roebuck with OmniAir. Today we are given the privilege to have the S.E.A. National Instruments Veritas test tool. We're actually broadcasting with two OBUs, one from Safari, another one from Consortium. We're actually showing them transmitting DSM and receiving them. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see the ADS stats here, where it shows the packets being transmitted and the packets being received. We'll update its status, and you can see that it's been increasing. On the right-hand side, we have the consignment unit. We actually show as its statistics where it is increasing here live. We have WSMP sent, WSMP received, and you can also see the BSM actually being signed. Below, we have Wireshark, which is actually being captured from the S.E.A. National Instruments tool. You can see that we have the packet numbers, the UTC time stamp. We have what protocol we're seeing. We see the link. We see the FTS frame and its value. We also see the packet ID number. We also see the PPP number, which is listed here. And you see the NCF number. You also see the source layer 2 MAC address, the PSID number. F20 is 32, which indicates a basic safety message. You can see the message count coming in, and also the second one. Down below, you see your typical decoding a packet. Let's click on one of these, and we can actually move this up. And you can see down below here, you see all the typical LTE headers on here. We will expand it, and you can see the .3 here, 69.3. We'll move it up. You can see the version numbers, the PSID. Then you actually get into the basic 2735 message, where you can see its message ID. You can actually see the core data, which is part 1, and the values we see here in the message set. Scrolling down, we got second mark, longitude, latitude, elevation, accuracy, the transmission state, the speed. Of course, we're sitting here stationary, so the speed should be 0. Then you actually got the part 2 elements here, and you can expand on the part 2 values. You got path history and path prediction here. Then some of the other from the tool, we're actually doing a Microsoft remote into the National Instruments device. And so we're going to collapse the Wireshark header. You can see its configuration program here. We're going to show the subframe timing element here. You can see at the bottom at -70 is the noise level floor. And at the top where you see -10 and -20, you You also can go to the events data logger, and you can see the basics here, and you can see it scrolling, and you can see all the information here. In here, where you see a DSRC status of 0, that means it's a good message. Where the DSRC is passed. So, quite capable tool, really gets down to the layer element. It is somewhat portable, and it can actually be used both in the bench and in the field. And we're happy to have this tool bearing up, looking at it for the first time at our virtual Plugfest. This tool will be at DEKRA in Spain, and it also will be at the Boston testing site here.
Okay, also we have the Southwest tool. Many people have been forward. It did receive certified qualification status here last week based on the release of the S.E.A 2945/1A document. I've actually boxed it, actually put it in a container where I can easily put it in the back of a vehicle and basically ready to go testing. This tool also, one thing is what we had done with one of our members, Qualcomm, and that stuff. We've created so-called a UDP interface where we can receive messages on a CDVX proxy and UDP the data, padding into the existing tool that Southwest had created for DSRC, and gives you the same capabilities. I'm actually tested on a couple different CDVX devices, and I was actually pretty pleased with the results coming in with so-called our adaptation to this tool. And this tool is being used here in the city of Austin, field testing. Our testing locations where we're using our OATLs, or authorized test laboratories. We do have a new component coming here, which is our authorized field test sites, to add to the capability expansion. You can see our previous in-person Plugfest starting in 2017, were hosted by Southwest, UL, Intertech, Texas Transportation Institute, Transport Canada, and DEKRA. And we're moving into this fall Plugfest where we have 6 locations represented: Austin, DEKRA, TTA in Korea, Veritas Korea, Veritas Detroit, and SGS California. So you can see that we have quite a global expansion from test laboratories, test tools, in moving forward into VitaX. City of Austin, we basically have the drive test where we have the SWORI tool. We have the drive test with a Sniffer test tool and multiple OBUs and RSUs. We have the NORTSA Sniffer tablet here coming. We have the S.E.A National Instruments Sniffer tool. It's part of it. We have the Spirent 1609 J2945 in both C2VDX and DSRC here. And we also have the Rodian, Swartz, and Vector. You can see in the lower, actually center lower picture, where you can see a Sirius XM and also a Siemens OBU shown in the picture here, where we were doing some prep testing last week. order to test out the RSUs here in Austin. The middle picture shows a Southwest tool in the yellow box. The blue box is Sniffer, and we're using the site and facilities and vehicle from the city of Austin. This is our test routes that we're taking. There's 13 RSUs and 12 RSUs and 3 C2VX RSUs in this route. We also have DEKRA tests where they offering the Aritsu, Danlaw, Keysight, Rhodium Swords, S.E.A, and Spirent. And we have the TTI test services in the laboratory, which they're both certified for OBUs and RSUs, where they're using the Keysight, Spirent test systems, both DSRC and C2V2X. And they also have the OATLS field testing, both in DSRC and C2V2X. And you can see their results showing similar capabilities of the tool that we've been using at Southwest. So we're very happy to see expansion of those test tools. So thank you for all the test laboratories that's participating here the next 3 weeks. Whoops, I have 2 more left. BV Korea and their capabilities in showing with the Keysight DSRC test system in Spirent. And we also have SGS, who's actually has Keysight, Spirent, and Aritsu at their places there. And here's the capabilities of the Veritas capabilities, both C2V2X, DSRC with the Danlaw and the Rhodium Swords. And they're actually going to be doing a drive test also. And moving forward in C2V2X, we've done a lot of work here. I'm very pleased of where we're at here and offering the capabilities and getting to this stage here. Your fourth quarter, we still have some work to do. We do need the FCC come out where you can actually grant equipment type device certifications. And of course, they got to put out the directive of what they'll allow and that type of stuff. We do need the standards releases of 1609.3, 61.1 in NEMA, which they're all in their final review process and should be released here shortly. We have test case finalization. We have the certification scope that we'll be releasing. We do need to take the test equipment learnings and finalizations and for qualifications. And we'll definitely be busy in doing the test laboratory audits with qualified equipment. This is the last slide. I believe I've used up the full hour and really didn't allow time for questions. Kate or Bonnie, do we have time for questions for folks or not? If there's any questions, please put them in the chat box where I can see what I can do. If not, you can go to my email and send me questions and I'll respond back here, hopefully later today. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat box where I can see what I can do. If not, you can if there are no questions, we're here for the next speakers. I need to be courteous to that. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate and moving forward. Thank you.